Library. Today's program will begin momentarily. Supported by Verso Studios, created locally and shared with the world.
Good evening. I want to welcome everyone here to the 12th Annual Team Westport Teen Diversity Essay Contest Awards Ceremony. Once again, we have the opportunity to count our blessings in terms of our young people and their voices that will be raised tonight. We're looking forward to it. It is one of the most important things that we as Team Westport do, and I think one of the most important things that happens here in the town of Westport. So to get things started off, I want to introduce our first select woman, Jennifer Tooker.
Thank you, Harold, and good evening. As Harold said, this is, for me, a really fun night. I don't think I have been here every single one of the last 12 years, but pretty close. And what I love about this evening is that I get to hear your words from you, which I think is so incredibly important. That it's not coming from us, it's not coming from me, it's not coming from a teacher, it's not coming from an administrator, it's not coming from Harold, it's coming from you. And so I'm delighted to listen and learn tonight. And thank you. Thank you for sharing your words with us, and thank you for sharing your thoughts with us. And like I said, I'm as excited as the rest of the crowd to hear you tonight. So with that, let's get going.
It's one thing to write an essay, it's another thing to judge one. And we have really been, we're talking about blessings, one of them has been the leadership that we've had from Dr. Judith Hamer to structure our process for essay judgment and to lead it for the last 12 years. And I very much want to thank her for that leadership. So this is going to be her last time doing this tonight. And so before we have that swan song happen, I'd like to invite her up once again to give us guidance on the process and what took place here. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold, and thank you to all of these writers. I know that it sometimes seems, when I talk to the finalists whom I've just met, that why would we want to judge 18 essays? Why would we volunteer for that? Well, you know, I can't entirely explain it. All I can do is to give you a little bit of background. When I was 12, my father said, "You should be a writer," because I had written a science fiction novel. I was really into science fiction then. And I said, "I'm never gonna write anything. I'm not a writer." Then when I was 15, he said, "Maybe you should be a teacher," since all I did was read novels and poetry. That was my thing, no nonfiction. And I said, "I'm never gonna teach anybody anything." So, fast forward, I end up with a PhD from Columbia in the teaching of writing. And my father, gentleman that he was, never said, "What did I tell you, Judy?" At any rate, what I realized is that writing is critical to every line of work, whether you're writing a lab report or a law brief. Unless you can communicate your findings and your thoughts, then you're at a loss, and the people who rely on you are also at a loss. So that's what I've learned over this long career of teaching and researching the writing process. The other thing that I've learned from my father, and it took a while, was never say never. So on to the task at hand. I want to talk first about what these strategies were and what the rubric was for judging these essays, because of course we had to have something that was organized and valid. And then I'd like to read you some excerpts from the essays that follow that rubric. The rubric is something that everybody knows. Everybody who reads anything knows that they are judging the writing or assessing the writing or interested in the writing because of 5 things. The ideas. What's the main idea, and is that idea followed out through the essay or through the piece of writing? The organization. Does the organization support what you thought the main idea was going to be? The voice. Does it sound like a real person is behind this? Or does it sound like it was just kind of, phoned in? The word choice. Is the writer speaking to the reader? Do you have pictures of what they're talking about? The sentence fluency. Is there rhythm? Is there sound? Does it flow? And finally, the conventions. Paragraphing, grammar, spelling, capitalization. You guys all know that. One of the things I know about the teachers in Westport is that they do such a good job about conventions because we, the judges, never really talk about them. So that's what the judges, and there were 5 of us, were judging the essays on. The way that we did it was that each of us read all 18 essays. Each of us made our decisions about where the essay stood based on these 5 things. Then we came together in a Zoom call, of course, and discussed it. And the wonderful thing about discussing it is that you get a chance to bounce ideas off each other and to see things, even as a judge, that you missed or that you thought were wonderful that maybe weren't so wonderful. So I'd like to take some time, and this will not take very long, to give you some examples from the essays that we're awarding to tonight, to show you how each of those categories fits. So if we talk about ideas and organization, there are a number of essays, but there's one where you know exactly what the person is saying and you know how this person is going to follow it up. This essay, first paragraph, first line of first paragraph. Growing up in Westport, I quickly learned what it meant to stand out. Okay, I know what you're going to talk about, or I know what I hope you're going to talk about. First line of second paragraph. Westport prides itself on being a welcoming community, but belonging is not just about physically being in a space with others, it's about being understood. Oh, okay. That follows from the first line of the first paragraph. And nowhere have I felt this, and this refers to the last line of the second paragraph, where the writer says, there's a quiet bias. And nowhere have I felt this more than in my sport. Aha, new idea. What's the sport? How did the writer feel it? And I can, and we did, go through this essay, and we knew exactly what the writer was saying. Yet, despite these challenges, my identity has also been my greatest source of strength. Okay, new idea, but it still fits into not belonging. Westport wants to be a place where every student feels like they belong, but how can we when there are almost no role models and peers who look like me? Okay, we're still talking about belonging. Representation is not just a statistic. It's about walking into a space and seeing proof that you can thrive there. We're still talking about belonging. The writer said that he or she was going to do it in the beginning, and he or she is doing it. This isn't just an oversight, it's a missed opportunity. Wow, okay, you're leading us into some new territory. That is why all teachers need to take implicit bias tests. Whoa. For me, Westport has always been home, and I will always love my home. So she's talked about some of the things that are wrong, some of the things that are great. Westport is not a place of hate, but it is a place of gaps. All I've done is read you the first line of every paragraph. And you can see how it tells you what the writer is writing about. And of course, all of the details support that. Okay, so that's ideas and organization that support those ideas. What about voice? Another essay, really different. By the first hour of my first day of kindergarten, I had heard "say hi" from my mom about 100 times. I stood behind my teacher while she introduced me to the class. I ducked my head, stared at my shining Coruscant ballet flats, and whispered as feebly as possible, "Hello." That was the only word I knew in English. All right, that's a completely different voice, and the writer has got the reader completely engaged. We can take another one and talk about word choice. This is from the middle of one of these essays. Being a hyphenated American means existing in the space between the lines. It means translating parts of yourself depending on the audience, slipping between language, between customs, between ways of thinking. It means carrying the weight of two histories at once, even when the world only asks for one. So you can see the variety of voices that we have here. This last example is an example of an extremely fluent writer, because he, and I think it's a he, I'm not sure, is using rhetorical tricks to keep the movement going. And then we can talk a bit about word choice. And this is the beginning of an essay whose writer, I'm guessing at his name from the title. The title is SLM, which of course is a way of drawing the reader in because, you know, what the heck is SLM? Whenever a person asks you who you are, the natural response is to give your name. What else would suffice as a distinguisher? I'm interested in the language here. From birth, it is the go-to summary of a person's identity. My name is SLM, and for most of my life, I had no clue what my name meant. Turns out, it's derived from Suleiman, which is translated into English as Solomon. I like the informality and also the grasp on the language that the writer seems to have. So these are examples from the winning essays that really explain and exemplify the categories that we are looking for. I don't really have anything to say about conventions, which is the last qualification here, because what I've seen from day one of the first year that we did this is that Westport teachers and you students know all about conventions, and the little that you don't know is easily learned. That's not necessarily, it's the presence of conventions doesn't make a good writer. Its absence makes a bad writer because readers get confused when you don't make the reading easy for them. And one of the ways to do that is by following the conventions. So there you are. I mean, the rubric is, it's not, you know, it's not rocket science. It is what readers always look for, even when they can't articulate it. I know that writing things, essays, papers like this does not come easily. I also know that this did not come from the writers full-blown just like this, that they worked on it, that they shaped it, that they revised it, that they rethought it in order to produce what they have produced. And so I congratulate you. I am glad to see you. I hope you do great things in your life and go wherever the writing path leads you. Thank you.
Well, let me at least introduce our essayists, and thank you, Judy. They are Annam Olasewere, Souleye Kebe, Sienna Tzou, and Aanya Gandhi. Now, we always like to have a little excitement, and you know, so what I'll be doing is announcing the. We'll go in reverse order. And this year, instead of 3 winners, we have 4. And that's because the judges took a look and decided as a group that all 4 are deserving of some award. And so we'll start with honorable mention and go all the way up to first place. So first I want to read, what is the charge? What's the background? And it's Team Westport is dedicated to addressing issues of bias and discrimination related to race, religion, ethnicity, and LGBTQIA+ identity that negatively impact our town's goal of being a welcoming community for all who live and work here. The recent introduction of the Anti-Defamation League's No Place for Hate initiative in Westport schools strives to create an environment where all students feel they belong and are free from the bias, bullying, and hatred that may exist otherwise. And then the challenge itself. In our community, each person's unique identity is shaped by their race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and other aspects of who they are contributes to the character of Westport. In 1,000 words or less, we invite you to reflect on how your own identity shapes your perspective and the experiences you have in Westport. Please address the following considerations in your response. Which aspects of your identity feel most central to how you wish to be understood and accepted? How do aspects of your identity shape your daily school and community experiences, including both challenges and opportunities in expressing these parts of yourself? What specific changes could our community make to decrease identity-based bias, bullying, and hate? So we're going to get started with the honorable mention, and it's for Sienna Tzou, and it's for her essay, The Value of Identity from the Start. Please, I'll get out of your way. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sienna. By the first hour of my first day of kindergarten, I had heard, "Say hi, Sienna," from my mom about 100 times. I stood behind my teacher when she introduced me to the class. I ducked my head, stared at my shining Coruscant ballet flats, and whispered as feebly as possible, "Hello." That was the only word I knew in English. I saw that some of my classmates snickered and very audibly attempted to imitate how I spoke. Others whispered and pointed their fingers at me as if my Asian exoticism was a foreign contaminant that could somehow infect the class. For the next 2 years, I made a silent resolve to avoid socializing altogether. I didn't want kids mimicking how I spoke, and it gave me the excuse to not be obligated to answer the unfiltered questions I knew everyone wanted to ask me. By the 3rd grade, groups of girls were impersonating me by blabbering gibberish as I Mandarin and pulling at the corners of their eyes behind my back. Thus, I forced a stoic, protective facade over my true identity, shrinking back into a silent reticence of social evasion. This does still linger with me to the present day, for I do have a more indrawn nature and very often prefer solitude over intimacy. This is not to say that I am solely a victim of prejudice and acts of hate. There was once a very apprehensive, timid black girl in my 2nd grade class. Many times when our teacher was not paying attention, a group of white girls would pour scorn on her for trivial matters. Knowing that I was quiet and docile as well, they told me to do the same. I did feel inclined to, because it was one of the few opportunities I had for social acceptance. Yet, I knew there was a fundamental insecurity that the girls were projecting onto the timid girl. I was young and didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew that demoralization was wrong. She was exactly like me. She never spoke a word, but I knew we had so much in common. We were both afraid to speak out because we were different. We feared that saying something would get us further rejected and criticized. So I decided to befriend her. What would it hurt? I didn't have any other friends, and if anything, we could come out of our shells together. In the end, it didn't matter, and our friendship didn't last because she didn't last very long. She and her family subsequently left the town or moved schools. I don't know where life took her. I don't think I ever will. Already as a young child, I knew that the community had an ingrained difficulty accepting people like me of a minority race. With white being the majority race, it was an inexorable curiosity that the youth would eventually weigh up. Was there room for kids who were different? Did we even belong here? Young children may just be curious, but they are much more susceptible to bias or oppose those from various ethnic backgrounds, or those that are visibly different from everyone else. Neutrality is not always in their disposition. Although I will say, hate, bullying, and prejudice happens to be much less prevalent in the higher grades. The reason for this might be higher stakes that have been implemented to breaking rules of conduct against discrimination of race, religion, sexuality, etc. However, we must not forget that growing our youth properly is vital for the flourishing of the individuals and young adults that we will become. From the start, when a child feels out of place, It molds their personality and their perspectives on their individual lives differently. Almost invariably, being shunned at a young age by peers can have a lasting residue on one's dignity and inherent qualities. To prevent the silence of minority voices, we must raise them from the beginning. Children that enter kindergarten or new schools are often shy and unsure of themselves, which is a rational fear. Cliques start to be made after introductions, especially those who are inherently a bit more extroverted than others. Coming from someone who, as a child, just missed the train to be in any closely knit clique, this is probably the most essential part about kindergartners' experience. Bonding activities can be administered to implement more inclusivity. For example, random pairing with a buddy, class matching activities for similarity, and writing notes to classmates that complement their unique and likable qualities can all build rapport over time. Besides classroom engagement, primary schools can have guest speakers discuss the benefits of inclusivity and how to speak up from identity-based bullying or bias. The community in general can also practice accepting unique qualities as special and welcome. This may contribute to more meaningful and sustainable connections, which is indispensable for a town's youth. Each person in this town deserves to get their voice heard. Those that have contrasting races, religions, or identity orientations are distinct but not incompatible. We just need to be more accepting and see the different as people we can thrive and grow our youth with. As I have grown into an adolescent, nevertheless, my morale has been augmented so that I can be the individual I am today. I take pride in the fact that I get to live with so many perspectives to ultimately mold me into an empathetic and discerning adult. I'm looking forward to the day where I can call myself that. I am, of course, proud to be part of this community with exceptional education and boundless opportunities. I just do wish I could go back in time and adjust my younger self to be a more confident being. I wish I could tell that girl with the shining, Coruscant ballet flats and a dimpled, cheeky smile that everything you have to say is valued and the world is waiting for your worth to shine through. Thank you.
Sienna, thank you. Let's come over and get a photo. I can hold your chair. For third place, it's Souleye Kebe.
Whenever a person asks you who you are, the natural response is to give your name. What else would suffice as a distinguisher? From birth, it is the go-to summary of a person's identity. My name is Souleye, and for most of my life, I had no clue what my name meant. Turns out it's derived from Suleiman, which is translated into English as Solomon. Since my family is West African, we use many variations of Abrahamic names like Solomon, names that would be considered exotic or peculiar in the United States. I always took pride in my clearly African name, however, seeing it as a stronger distinguisher than the numerous Johns or James here. I always knew that I was Souleye Kebe, an African. Being born an African, I had to come to terms early on that people who look like me haven't had a historically positive relationship with the United States. What made it easier was that I didn't have to accept that by myself, because I lived in New York City, where everyone came from diverse backgrounds, many of them having similarly complex relationship with the country we were born in. Coming to Westport was admittedly a culture shock, since I'd never seen so many people with such relative conformity. The students here had the same clothes, same style of speaking, and same style of general being. They also shared the same statements, requests like, "Can I touch your hair?" Remarks like, "I don't see color," and boasts like, "I had a black friend in elementary school." I thought that these words were nothing more than stories, and so I was astonished to hear people say that to my face. Through that, I remained Souleye Kebe, an African from New York City. Despite me going to school here for 3 years, I still wouldn't rush to call myself a Westporter. I value my outsider perspective too much to seemingly diminish it with that title. I found many outlets here to express that perspective, such as with my position on the Board of Education, allowing me to filter the opinions of students and to discern which pieces of feedback best represent us as a school. These outlets, however, are more representative of my identity as it relates to attending Staples High School and not of my identity as a Westporter. These outlets make me Souleye Kebe, an African from New York City attending Staples High School. When Team Westport asks students like me to propose specific changes to combat hatred and bias, I wonder why this burden of fixing systemic exclusion falls upon those already navigating its harms. The unabated truth is that it's not my responsibility, nor the responsibility of any other kid, to act as Westport's savior, driving it towards diversity and away from hatred. While I can and will support the town in any way I can towards that goal, it is incumbent upon the students of Westport to seek that change for themselves. Every person must look inwards and examine their own potential predispositions and immediate judgments, determining for themselves whether they want to put the effort towards a more kind and tolerant Westport. We can mold students towards that mindset by implementing diverse thought processes in all parts of their education, showing them that the world they live in is merely a slice of true reality, and is not reflective of how diverse the world truly is. However, we can't force them to make a positive step. It's entirely on them. Living here, I see my identity spread between the two continents of America and Africa. The distance between these two places have made me realize that I am in truth a child of the world. All people are. We often forget how we are all inhabitants of the same planet, being too caught up in the immediate to notice. We think and say disgusting things to others outside of our close proximity because the distance protects us. This is not a proper way to live. I doubt that I would have subscribed so fully to this realization had my identity not been spread as far as it has. Had I not been afforded this perspective uncommon to the people of Westport. While I think this perspective is a strong impetus towards global thinking and away from prejudice and bias, it is incumbent upon the Westport community to carry that energy forward. I will not tell this community the minutiae of every step they need to take to make Westport a more welcoming place. This town must first see for themselves a peace that can be made and that can exist by celebrating diversity and opposing hatred. Look at the names of the people of the world. My name, as well as its many variations, are all derived from the triliteral root S, L, and M. We hear it in Salam, and in Shalom, and in Solomon, and Shalomo, and in Suleiman, and in Souleye. This root means peace, which is something we can all strive for. My name is Souleye Kebe, an African from New York City attending Staples High School, who is working to be an advocate of peace.
And my apologies for mispronouncing your name, Souleye. Let me just say over here. First of all, for honorable mention, the dollar amount was $250. For third place, the dollar amount is $500 to Souleye. Okay. Well, you get to carry this too. Second place goes to Aanya Gandhi for her essay, White Paint and Other Lies. Aanya. Congratulations.
Hello, my name is Aanya Gandhi, and my title is White Paint and Other Lies. I used to believe that identity was something you could package neatly, something that could be shaped to fit whatever mold was required of you. After all, I had done it myself. layering coats of white paint over a canvas splotched in black, covering the parts that didn't seem to belong. A fresh coat each time the paint started to peel, a fresh performance each time the mask began to slip. Moving to Westport was like stepping into a world that had already written its script, my script. Individuality was celebrated, but only in its most polished form. Never raw, never messy. There was a right way to be unique, a right way to be different. I learned early on that there were two versions of myself, one that fit and one that didn't. The one that could blend seamlessly into the rhythm of this town, and one that pulsed just slightly offbeat. Being a hyphenated American means existing in the space between the lines. It means translating parts of yourself depending on the audience, slipping between two languages, two customs, two ways of thinking. It means carrying the weight of two histories at once, even when the world only asks for one. I have felt this duality in ways I never had before. My roots extend far beyond the pristine lawns and quiet affluence of this town. But here, those roots are invisible. Here, I am expected to exist in a singular dimension, to be American in a way that's digestible. The challenge is not just being different. It's being different in a way that others don't quite understand. It's the subtle mispronunciations of my name, the casual dismissal of my traditions as exotic, and the assumption that my heritage is an accessory rather than an integral part of who I am. It's the way my culture is celebrated when it's convenient. Diwali as an aesthetic, Bollywood as a novelty, but completely dismissed when it challenges the narrative of what American should look like. At school, I suddenly become the official spokesperson for all things vaguely South Asian. Someone mentions chai, all eyes are on me. Never mind that my go-to drink is a very overpriced vanilla latte. I've learned to nod wisely, as if I personally oversee the tea plantations in India, because correcting the chai tea crowd is a battle I no longer have the energy to fight. I've spent years walking the tightrope between belonging and erasure. I have become fluent in the language of masking, of saying I'm fine when I'm not, of laughing off moments that sting, of folding myself into smaller and smaller shapes to fit the space allotted to me. There was a moment when I realized that the burden of translation should not fall on me alone. That my identity is not something that needs to be repackaged or rebranded to be understood. That my presence, unfiltered, unpolished, is enough. The true challenge of identity is not just existing within it, but demanding that others see it for what it is, in all of its complexity. Westport has the privilege of being a town that welcomes diversity in theory, but struggles with it in practice. The change we need is not just more cultural festivals or acknowledgements in school assemblies. It's way deeper than that. It's in the way we teach history, not just as a singular narrative, but as a melting pot of perspectives. It's in the way we talk about identity, not just as a checkbox in the school syllabus, but as an ever-evolving story. It's in the willingness to learn, not just to respond, but to understand, to comprehend. I no longer wish to be understood in fragments, and I refuse to be seen in halves. I'm not just the parts of myself that are easy to digest, easy to praise, easy to fit into a pre-approved template. My identity is not something to be painted over or polished or rebranded. It is vibrant, it is uncontainable, and it is wholly mine. And for the first time, I'm learning to stand in that truth, without apology, without translation, and without another coat of paint. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
I'll take both.
The suspense is over. But not the messages. First place goes to Annam Olasewere for her essay, The Identity Challenge. Annam?
Hello, I'm Annam, and my essay is titled Understood, Connected, Valued. Growing up in Westport, I quickly learned what it meant to stand out. In a school of hundreds, I can count on one hand the number of students who looked like me. More often than not, it was just me in classes, walking the halls or sitting at lunch as the only girl of color in the room. Those moments made me more aware of the gap between how I saw myself and how I was seen by others. Westport prides itself on being a welcoming community. But belonging is not just about physically being in a space with others. It's about being understood. It's about being connected to your community, and it's about being valued. While I've never been directly told, you don't belong here, I felt it in 1,000 quiet ways. The double takes when I say Westport is my hometown. The disbelief when I step into leadership roles or excel in my AP classes. Or the doubt people show when I pursue activities outside the norm for someone like me. It's not outright hate. It's something more subtle, yet just as isolating. A quiet bias that makes me feel like I must constantly prove my worth. And nowhere have I felt this more than in my sport. Fairfield County's athletic teams are known for their excellence, but not necessarily for their diversity. As a competitive swimmer, I step onto the pool deck, knowing that more often than not, I am the only brown-skinned girl in the water. And even when I succeed, the reaction isn't admiration, but disbelief. Comments like, how can you even possibly balance everything? The academics, the athletics, the extracurriculars? No one asks others who succeed in multiple areas these questions. It's as if my accomplishments are unexpected, as though they were not supposed to be possible for someone like me. Yet, despite these challenges, my identity has also been my greatest source of strength. Being different has given me a deeper sense of determination and resilience. I don't settle for less. I see the signs of bias now, and I don't let them define me. But here's the thing. Belonging isn't just an internal issue. It's also shaped by our structures and systems. Westport wants to be a place where every student feels like they belong. But how can we when there are almost no role models and peers who look like us? Walking the halls, sitting in classes, and again, joining school activities, I rarely see faces that reflect my own. It's not just a feeling, it's a reality. African American students make up only 1.8% of the school's district population, meaning that in a graduating class of 400 to 500, there are maybe 7 of us. 7. Not in one classroom, not on one team, but in an entire grade. We aren't just underrepresented, we are scattered, spread so thin that it's easy to feel invisible. And it's not just among students. In a building with about 200 educators, I can count on one hand the number of teachers of color. 5, maybe fewer. In all my years of school, I've never had a teacher who shares my background, who understands without explanation what it's like to walk into a room and immediately feel like an outsider, to be the only brown-skinned girl in a classroom, in an AP course or on a team, to always feel like I have to prove that I belong. Representation is not just a statistic. It's about walking into a space and seeing proof that you can thrive there, that your ambitions are not anomalies, and that you don't have to be the first or the only one to be excellent. When we don't see ourselves reflected in leadership, in education, in success stories, we are left to wonder, do we truly belong? This isn't just an oversight, it's a missed opportunity. Representation matters, not just in the classroom, but in the way students see their futures. When teachers of color stand at the front of a classroom, they aren't just educators. They are proof that we belong in those spaces and that we can be scholars, leaders, and intellectuals. Westport needs to hire more diverse staff, not to just tick a box, but to show that they truly value all students and their experiences.
While representation is important, the attitudes of educators also help unlock the potential students see in themselves. In my psychology class, I learned about implicit bias, how even well-intentioned people can unknowingly hold prejudices that affect their actions. Studies show that people can often, without realizing it, have lower expectations for students of color, are more likely to discipline them harshly or assume they need extra help. This is not because they are bad people, but because bias is deeply ingrained in us all. This is why all teachers need to take implicit bias tests, not as an accusation, but as a tool for self-awareness. They need to recognize their biases, educate themselves, and actively work to do better. It's not enough to say, oh, I don't see color, because the truth is, the world does. Pretending otherwise doesn't erase the experiences of students like me. It erases the chance to change them. For me, Westport has always been my home, and I will always love my home. But home should be a place where you don't have to fight to fit in. It should be a place where no student ever questions whether they are out of place because of their identity. Where our differences are not just seen, but celebrated. Where the next girl of color walking into the classroom or diving into the pool doesn't have to wonder if she's the only one, because she won't be. Westport is not a place of hate, but it is a place of gaps, of blind spots, of unintentional marginalization, of well-meaning people who don't truly understand others' realities. By sharing my story, I hope we can start closing the gaps and creating a community where true belonging means being understood, connected, and valued to those around you. Thank you.
I'd like all the winners to come up. Let's get a picture. Good.
Want us to stay here?
Sure. A group thing.
Okay.
Sure? Okay. Thank you all. One thing. Okay. I got to say, these essays were brilliant. The insight that was shown by young people at this age was just absolutely stunning. And I really want to congratulate you all. Not only are they touching, but they really get at the heart of what identity is all about. So you are to be congratulated. You know, we had 11 years before you of essays done, and you have really done yourselves proud with this set of essays. They will be remembered. And I want to remind everyone, this is being recorded. It'll be posted to the Team Westport and to the library sites afterwards for anyone who didn't see it. But again, I want to congratulate you. And there are several people I'd like to also thank. There's the folks on the program, the essay committee for Team Westport, headed up by Carolina Mata. Patra was here before, she's part of it. Maggie Mudd is here. She was part of it and making it happen. Catherine Lewis as well. And I think, as well as Leanne Feng, I think, was also on the committee. In addition, I want to get back to Judge Judy again. Before I say anything about Judge Judy, there were other judges that are involved. She mentioned her team. They include Donna Skolnick, Alex Giannini, Carrie Gawalik, and is there one more? Well, I was going to say that. And Shonda Rhimes, who also participated. And I think it's a tribute to the kind of work that's being done by our young people that, as an example, Shonda made it a point to say, for the second time, that she absolutely positively would change her schedule to make certain that she had a chance to judge this year's entries, that they were that important as well. But I want to say thank you to Judge Hamer again for her work for the last 12 years. And of course, you got to get a plaque this time. And it says, good stuff. Again, congratulations.
Thank you, Harold.
Sure. It says, this is to recognize Dr. Judith Hamer for her leadership in establishing and elevating Westport's Teen Diversity Essay Contest to hallmark status among initiatives of its kind across the state of Connecticut. The stature and success we've achieved bespeak her high levels of excellence and humanity as an educator and author, despite what you told your father. Yes. We have something else to go along with it.
Thank you so much, Judy, for all your years. Yes, it is. It's dripping.
Oh, well, in that case,
Slight accident.
sorry about that.
So if you want me to-
No cash, just gratitude. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I am going to walk down.
So once again, I want to thank everyone for being here. This has been a great session, and we've got another great set of essays. Thank you.